Good evening, YouTube. You guys are now watching another segment of the Cali Effect. For years, Konami has been making some of the most awesome archetypes with some of the best art and most amazing lore to add on top of that amazing art in Yu-Gi-Oh! And one has been thinking, seeing the new Red Eye support, the new Toon support, what about all the other bad decks that Konami just never seem to neglect? Some of them are even borderline good that could be competitive into our circuit, but just need a little push just to make that scene. Today I'm going to be talking about the top 5 of these decks that could use just that much more support to be either competitive or just a really fun playable deck because of their lore and or artwork. Number 5 on my list would definitely have to be the Familiar Possessed / Charmer archetype. Why? Because we didn't even know that we possessed an archetype so good until it was released. Get it? Possession? Release? Because no? Alright, well this deck is so under-supported, like you can really look at the cards. None of them really work together, and that's kind of what Possession Release kind of said. Hey, these cards are supposed to work together, and unfortunately they didn't. The artwork is so amazing on these pieces of cards. I mean, come on, who wouldn't want to play and beat somebody with a deck full of girls? I think that that's every fanboy's dream. But to add more cream to the crop, this deck is so good in its lore, and if you guys do not know the Gigabyte lore, I think you should really look into it because it's one of the most fascinating stories about a young innocent thing that grew up to be a very, very powerful monster. A couple of things that could be used to make the deck even better is maybe an Exceed monster that supports spellcasters overall. As we know, besides Shadows and spellbooks, who really only support Shadows and spellbooks, unless you want to make a Shadows spellbook deck, but that's beside the point, only really support themselves. Spellcasters as a whole are a very underrated, under-supported type, and if they could receive some type of Exceed monster that will power up not only the Familiar Possessed, but spellcast as a whole, I think that would be a huge boost. The next thing, I think Possession Release was an amazing card. Now let's build on top of that. Perhaps a spell card that could give the Familiar Possessed advantage, adding multiples copies to the hand, or even a spell card or a field spell card that would allow the Charmers to be used more effectively inside the deck. Whatever way, Konami, you need to draw up this deck and give it support because this is amazing. Number 4 on this list has to be aliens. Why? Because they're aliens. They practically abducted me and said, Cali Effect, you will put us on this list. And I was like, as long as you don't probe me, I am perfectly fine. So that's exactly why aliens made it on this list. I mean, their artwork is just amazing. It's almost like Kazuki Takahashi himself seeing the aliens and decide to draw them. This deck is just so under-supported, and I think which another great thing is that it supports an aspect of the game that really no deck plays. Something called counters, where you could place little symbolic things on cards to represent, obviously effects that cards have used. And then aliens take it a step further, being able to abuse those counters on the opponent's monsters to abduct them to the side of your field. I mean, who wouldn't want to play a deck that abducts the opponent's monsters and uses those monsters to attack for game? That is just nothing less of amazing. Something that the deck could use to, be aliens is better ways to make A counters and distribute them. A counters are the blood and lifeline in this deck, and as we can look through the archetype, there really isn't much that provides a lot of A counters to the opposing monsters, so we can use our alien effects. Another thing that could be really helpful to the deck, since it hasn't received any support since Synchros were brand new, is Exceed and or Pendulum support. Something that I think will really add a lot of consistency and power to the deck. Number 3 on this list of awesome archetypes has to be the Nordic gods. Why? Because they're Nordic gods. Have you guys not read the lore of Nordic gods? This deck has it all. Extremely powerful boss monsters that have amazing effects. It has the awesome artwork. It is just one of the better decks that have not shown any support, and what's really good about it is that it shows a lot of promise. Now I know a lot of us players were really excited about the new Nordic support that Konami gave us not even a year ago, and then we got it and yeah, it wasn't that great. What they could do is just make it a little easier for us to summon these Nordic god monsters, and then better ways to protect them. Ultimately, I think that that would be amazing for the Nordic archetype. It has everything you can want for in a deck. Amazing power monsters, pretty decent okay monsters that you could build on to make better cards with, and like I said, searchability and sometimes consistency that could be added on to. Number 2 on this list is Ice Barriers. I need this to play my Ice Barriers, guys. Probably the deck that everyone loves, but it's just too inconsistent and under-supported to even understand what it does. Now, I know you could technically build an Ice Barrier deck and play it, but seriously, guys, how competitive is Ice Barriers? It's getting beat out by Toon support right now. We need more support for this deck. There's a lot of things that I could be said about this deck that just screams I could be a good deck, like, you know, their boss monsters. 2 of the 4 being banned, 1 of them was on the list for quite some time, and Gungnir is still an amazing card. This deck could have been amazing, but Konami just decided to be tripping. Like, this could be us, but you tripping, babe. Konami decided to do that to us. What Ice Barriers could use is a complete revamp of the archetype. I don't really think there's anything you can do to save the monsters that we have now, so you probably have to redo every Ice Barrier card to make them work with each other, because I don't think that was the theme for Konami going back then. You know, as you can see, the Gen X Undying thing and, you know, everything else in the pack. The only thing that had some cohesiveness was X-Sabers. So a complete reboot of Ice Barriers would be amazing. Also, since you're rebooting the monsters, you might as well just take Trishula and Brionac off the list and kind of errata them to be Ice Barrier specific. Them being Ice Barrier specific not only forces people to, you know, kind of play Trishula and Brionac, 2 of the most broken synchros in the game, in an Ice Barrier only deck, but also allows us to play Trishula and Brionac the way that it should have been played in the first place. Number 1! The deck that almost tasted immortality. The deck that had his hand on the cliff of invincibility, but was kicked in the face by Dragon Rulers and Spellbooks and Fire Fist and Mermail and any deck in between. Why? Because Konami decided to support the deck. It decided to give it an amazing boss monster, but it didn't decide to support the deck enough. Mecha Phantom Beast. One of the decks that have been so close to immortality, like I said before. One of the decks that could have been one of the best competitive decks of all time, using a very underrated system, being able to special summon tokens to your side of the field, and, you know, just a really, really good deck to have used. Mecha Phantom Beasts have the best usage of level modifications, where if you have Mecha Phantom Beast tokens, their levels actually change. That really is really good for a format where Synchros and Exceeds at the same time were really big. Mecha Phantom Beast had that much potential. Like I said, they were this close from being very competitive, and they still can be this close from being very competitive because of how they were built. Mecha Phantom Beast just received support in World Superstars. I mean, it's a decent card, but what could be, you know, easier for Mecha Phantom Beast is for Konami to finally release spells and trap cards that give you Mecha Phantom Beast tokens with ease. That's right. And that's one of the only things that's keeping Mecha Phantom Beast from being a scrub tier to being in the top tables. The last thing that Mecha Phantom Beasts are missing is now, we need more Synchros and X-Seed monsters. That's it. That's completely it. Maybe you can give us a couple of more cohesive tuner monsters to work with the Mecha Phantom Beast, but really just more Synchros and X-Seeds that Mecha Phantom Beast need to be that competitive deck. Their artwork, amazing. I mean, come on. Their planes that kind of like dragon, like, come on. Who doesn't like planes with, I mean, Dracosack has a second mouth. Stop arguing with me here. Go away. Thank you guys for watching another segment of The Cali Effect. Please like, comment, subscribe. I want to know what decks that you guys think are under-supported, because there's just so many. I mean, ranging from Dark Scorpions to Ancient Gears, like I said before. Also, shout out to the many of people that have been asking me to make this video, because yes, it is a very, very good video. Like I said, please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy.